You open your phone before your eyes are even fully open. Another morning, another snooze, another quiet promise that today is the day you finally start. By the time you're scrolling through your feed, you've already watched 3 people younger than you launch a business, finish a degree, or post a life that looks finished, while yours still feels like a draft you haven't gotten around to. You tell yourself you're not like them, not because you couldn't do what they're doing, because you're meant for something bigger, something you just haven't started yet. The project sits half open on your desktop. The course you paid for is still stuck at 12%. The conversation you've been meaning to have is still unsent, sitting in your drafts. And somewhere underneath all of it, quietly, there's a thought you'd never say out loud. What if I actually started, and it turned out I wasn't as good as I always believed I was? That thought is the real story here, not laziness, not poor time management. A very specific psychological pattern that convinces capable people that staying undecided feels safer than being tested. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly what that pattern is, where it actually comes from, and it's probably not where you'd expect, and the one practical shift that starts dismantling it, beginning with something you can do today. Psychologists have studied versions of this for decades, but I want to give you a simpler name for it first, because once you can name something, you can finally catch it while it's happening instead of years later. I call it the potential trap. And here's the part that surprises most people. It almost never happens to those who lack ability. It happens almost exclusively to people who had plenty of it. Here's what's really going on underneath it. The potential trap is a quiet bargain your mind makes to protect how you see yourself. As long as you haven't truly committed, haven't given something your full, honest effort, you get to keep believing you would have been great at it. The moment you commit completely and it doesn't go perfectly, that belief disappears. So your mind picks the option that feels safer. It keeps you in "I could," because "I could" can never fail. Only "I did" can. This is exactly why it never feels like avoidance from the inside. It feels like waiting for the right moment, the right idea, the right person, the right conditions. But the conditions were never really the problem. The bargain was. Here's the part almost nobody talks about, and it's the most important piece of this entire pattern. This rarely shows up in people who were told growing up that they were average. It shows up overwhelmingly in people who were told they were exceptional. If you were the smart one, the quick one, the kid who picked things up faster than everyone else without trying very hard, your sense of who you are got quietly built on potential instead of results. Being talented became part of your identity before you ever had to prove it under real pressure, real competition, or real failure. Then adulthood arrives, and adulthood doesn't reward potential. It rewards finished work, consistency, and showing up on the days that feel boring. For someone whose entire identity was built on being naturally good at things, that shift doesn't feel like a normal challenge. It feels like a direct threat to who they are. So the mind does what minds do when identity feels threatened. It protects itself. And the simplest way to protect an identity built on potential is to make absolutely sure that potential is never fully tested. This pattern tends to show up in 3 specific, everyday forms. The first is constant low-grade escape. Not collapse, not crisis, just a steady stream of small distractions, an extra hour of scrolling, one more episode, one more game, anything that quietly fills the hours that were supposed to go toward the thing you keep saying matters to you. The second is pulling away right when things start asking something real of you, a relationship that's going well until it asks for a future tense, a job that's stable until it asks for real commitment instead of "for now." The moment something requires you to choose it fully, a part of you starts hunting for its flaws instead. The third is quietly rewriting the story so the outside world becomes the reason nothing has moved. The economy, the market, the wrong timing, the wrong boss, the wrong circumstances. Some of that is genuinely real, but when it becomes the entire explanation, every single time, it stops being an observation and starts being a hiding place. Let me show you what this actually looks like in a real life instead of just in theory. Picture someone. We'll call him Ryan. Growing up, his report cards all said some version of the same thing. Doesn't apply himself, but clearly bright. He could write an essay the night before it was due and still get a good grade. He could pick up a guitar and figure out a song in an afternoon while his friends were still stuck on lesson 3. By 28, none of that early brightness had turned into anything finished. 4 half-built business ideas, a screenplay that stopped at page 30, a job he still described to everyone as temporary, a description that was now 3 years old. It wasn't that Ryan lacked the ability to follow through. It was that some part of him understood, without ever saying it out loud, that finishing something meant finally finding out exactly how good he actually was. And as long as everything stayed unfinished, he could keep believing the answer was extraordinary. His relationships followed the same shape. He'd date someone for a few months. Things would start to deepen, and right as it asked something real of him, consistency, vulnerability, an actual future, he'd suddenly start noticing everything wrong with her instead. It was always easier to walk away from almost right than to risk being fully known and found ordinary. Here's what makes this trap so effective and so dangerous. In the short term, it genuinely works. Every time Ryan walked away from something, right before it could test him, he felt relief. The discomfort disappeared instantly. His self-image stayed perfectly intact. But here's what that relief was quietly costing him. Not just time, although it was costing him plenty of that too. It was costing him the one experience that actually turns potential into character, trying something completely, failing at parts of it, and discovering he could survive that and keep going anyway. Every year, he stayed inside the trap. The gap between who he believed he could be and what he had actually built grew a little wider. And a gap like that doesn't stay quiet forever. It shows up at 2 in the morning. It shows up in the silence right after someone asks, "So, what do you actually want to do with your life?" A question that used to feel exciting and now lands like an accusation. If you've watched someone you love live this way, a partner, a brother, a close friend, this is usually what's happening underneath the surface. It isn't that they don't care. It's that some part of them is more afraid of trying and finding their ceiling than they are of staying exactly where they are. Understanding that doesn't mean you owe anyone unlimited patience, but it does mean the way out is rarely pressure or guilt. Those two things only confirm the fear that's already running the show. What actually helps is small, steady proof that effort doesn't have to end in humiliation. So, how does someone actually start breaking out of this? Not with a complete life overhaul. Overhauls are just another form of the trap, another big, dramatic plan that's far easier to imagine than it is to finish. The shift that actually works is smaller and a lot less glamorous. I call it the ordinary hour. Pick one thing you've been keeping unfinished, specifically because finishing it would mean it could finally be judged. Not your biggest dream, the smallest stalled thing, the unsent email, the half-built resume, the course still sitting at 12%. Give it 1 full hour, not until it's perfect, until it's done, or until you've made the next honest piece of progress a reasonable person would call real. No music, no second screen, nothing to soften the discomfort of sitting with something small and unglamorous until it's actually finished. That hour will not feel impressive. That's exactly the point. The potential trap survives on the idea that you're meant for something big. The way out runs directly through doing something small, all the way to the end, on purpose. Do that once, and it proves very little. Do it most days for a few weeks, and something genuinely starts to shift. You stop needing the idea of being talented to feel okay about yourself, because you start having actual finished things as evidence instead. So let's bring this together. The potential trap isn't laziness. It's a mind protecting an identity built on being naturally gifted, by making absolutely sure that gift never has to face a real test. It usually starts early, with praise for ability instead of effort. It shows up as constant, low-grade escape, pulling away right when something asks for real commitment, and quietly handing the entire explanation over to circumstances outside your control. And the way out isn't a dramatic reinvention. It's one ordinary hour spent finishing one small, honest thing, repeated until proof slowly replaces potential. If you recognized a piece of yourself somewhere in this video, I'd genuinely like to know which part landed the most. Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you'd like more videos like this one, please consider subscribing so you don't miss what's coming next. Next time, we're going to look at the other side of this, what this pattern actually does to the people who love someone caught inside it, and the one conversation that changes how that relationship moves forward. Thank you for spending this time here with me. I'll see you in the next video.